Before we begin, I want you to release something. The idea that the Bible was written about someone else. Because from Genesis to Revelation, what you are reading is not a history book, not a book of fear, not a book of bondage, not a book of condemnation. It is an open book of your consciousness. Every king, every fall, every battle, every restoration is revealing what happens within you. The garden, the wilderness, the cross, the throne, they are states of awareness. And when the language is misunderstood, symbols become literal. Poetry becomes fear. Revelation becomes control. And what was meant to liberate you is used to bind you. But when you begin to see, you realize why Paul the Apostle said, we are all one in Christ. Because this message was never about division, never about religion, never about superiority, never about fear. The gospel of Christ is about transformation, awareness, and freedom. The gospel of Christ unites. And that is why this truth applies to everyone, regardless of background, regardless of belief, regardless of what you've been taught. Because what is being revealed is you. So as we step into this teaching, don't just listen. Observe, reflect, and most importantly, see. We will go through Daniel chapter 4, verse by verse. So I want you to take your time and listen. Verse 1. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. This is not just a historical king speaking. It is a state of consciousness within you speaking. Nebuchadnezzar the king. A king represents what governs, what rules, what has authority within you. So Nebuchadnezzar here is the dominant mindset or the ego structure. It is the part of you that currently rules your inner world. This is the same throne language we saw in Revelation. Next line. Unto all people, nations, and languages. People represent thoughts. Nations represent different areas of your life, such as work, family, relationships. Languages represent ways of expression, communication, inner dialogue. Meaning, this ruling mindset is addressing your entire inner system. Next line, that dwell in all the earth. Earth represents surface level awareness or everyday consciousness. So this is speaking to everything operating within your natural daily awareness. Next line, peace be multiplied unto you. Now this is interesting. The ruling mindset declares peace. But we must ask, what kind of peace? This peace Nebuchadnezzar declares is not always genuine peace. Sometimes it is protection, avoidance, and ego defense. Example, someone once opened up, trusted a friend or loved one, shared something vulnerable, but in a moment of anger, that same information was used against them. That moment creates a wound. What happens next? Now the person says, I'm fine. But underneath, they are hurting. They feel unsafe opening up. They are carrying things alone. That is not peace. It is guarded silence. Two root causes. One, protection from pain. The person says, I don't want to be hurt again. It's safer to keep things to myself. Next cause is ego defense. The person says, you can't help me anyway. I don't need anyone. Different reasons, but same outcome, which is isolation. So Nebuchadnezzar says, peace. This is the ruling mindset saying, everything is okay, even when it is not. What this creates over time? People stop sharing. They bottle things up. They carry emotional weight alone. And slowly, it affects mental health, affects relationships, and inner well-being. Not every I'm fine means peace. Sometimes it means I don't feel safe enough to be honest. The deeper insight. True peace is not silence, suppression, or avoidance. True peace is being able to face what is within without fear of being used or judged. The balanced truth, very important. This doesn't mean tell everything to everyone. It means discern where safety exists. Because not everyone deserves your vulnerability. But you were not created to carry everything alone. The gentle shift. Instead of I'm fine, ask yourself, what am I protecting right now? That question begins healing. Some people are not at peace. They are just quiet because speaking once cost them too much. And until that wound is seen, peace will remain a word, not an experience. Example in career. An employee shares an idea or concern. It gets dismissed, mocked, or used against them later. What they do next? They say, I'm fine. But internally, they stop speaking up. They avoid contributing. They carry frustration silently. What this creates? Disengagement, lack of growth, and quiet burnout. That is false peace. Not peace. Self-protection in a toxic environment. Next example, relationship. Someone opens up emotionally. Their vulnerability is ignored or used in conflict. What they do next? They say, I'm fine. But internally, they shut down emotionally. They stop expressing needs. They become distant. What this creates? Emotional disconnection, misunderstanding. A relationship that looks fine but feels empty. That is false peace. Not peace, guarded silence after being hurt. Next example, religion. Someone questions a teaching. They are dismissed, corrected harshly, or made to feel wrong. What they do next? They say, I'm fine. But internally, they suppress their questions. They stop seeking deeper understanding. They conform outwardly. What this creates? Fear-based belief, lack of personal growth, disconnection from true understanding. That is false peace. Not peace, but conformity to avoid rejection. The pattern across all. Vulnerability is expressed. It is mishandled or used against the person. The person withdraws. "I'm fine" becomes the response. Silence replaces honesty. And it looks like peace, but it is actually disconnection from self and others. False peace does not disturb others, but it quietly disturbs you. Because everything you don't express does not disappear. It stays within you. The shift. Instead of asking, "Am I okay?" ask, "Am I truly at peace? Or am I just silent?" Because silence can look like peace, but it can also be unspoken pain. Some people are not at peace. They have just learned how to hide their pain well. And until it is safe to be honest, peace will remain something they say, not something they feel. Next verse. "I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God had wrought toward me." Signs and wonders represents moments that interrupt your normal flow. High God represents higher awareness breaking through. Toward me represents happening within your own life experience. This is a wake-up event that forces you to see what you didn't see before. Sometimes you are not awakened by comfort. You are awakened by disappointment. What feels like betrayal, unfairness, being overlooked is often exposure of a deeper truth. Example, in career, you've been loyal, you've worked hard, you've given your best. Then promotion goes to someone less competent. What you feel? You feel betrayed, undervalued, and confused. What it reveals, the sign. That moment exposes you tied your worth to that system. You expected fairness from a structure that may not operate that way. You outgrew the environment, but stayed comfortable. That's the wonder. Not the promotion, the awakening. What it can lead to: starting your own business, finding a healthier environment, redefining your value. That moment becomes a turning point. In relationship, you invest deeply in someone, then they betray or disappoint you. What it reveals: it reveals where you ignored red flags, where you overgave, where you lacked boundaries. Pain becomes clarity. In religion, you've believed something for years. Then you begin to question it. What it reveals: it reveals where you followed without understanding, where fear replaced truth, where growth was needed. Discomfort becomes awakening. The pattern breakdown: 1. You are committed or comfortable. 2. Something unfair happens. 3. Emotion rises, such as pain or confusion. 4. You begin to question. 5. Awareness opens. 6. A new path becomes visible. That moment was not random. It was revealing something bigger than the event itself. Sometimes, life doesn't give you what you deserve because it's trying to show you you've outgrown where you are. The shift: instead of saying they did me wrong, ask, what is this moment revealing about me and where I am? Because that question turns pain into direction. What looks like rejection is sometimes the moment life is saying, you don't belong here anymore. And if you listen closely, you realize that disappointment was not the end. It was the beginning of a new path. Next verse. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. Great and mighty represents undeniable, impactful, life-shifting. Signs and wonders represents awakening moments from verse 2. Kingdom represents state of awareness. Everlasting means always present, not temporary. Dominion is what truly governs. Generation to generation means patterns repeating over time. This verse is saying, these awakening moments are not small, and what they reveal is not temporary. What's really happening? When a real awakening begins, it stays with you. You may try to ignore it. Go back to how things were. Pretend nothing changed. But deep down, you know. Why? Because true awareness cannot be unseen. Example, the career. What happens? You experience that moment. You've been passed over, undervalued, overlooked. After that moment, even if you stay, you don't see the job the same way. You question things more. You become aware of your worth. Something shifted permanently. Something woke you up. That's the great sign. Not the event itself, the shift in how you see. Next example, in relationship, you experience betrayal or repeated patterns. After that, you notice red flags quicker. You don't tolerate what you used to. Your standards shift. Even if you try to go back, you can't fully return to who you were before. In religion, you begin to question long-held beliefs. After that, you see things differently. Certain teachings no longer sit the same. You seek understanding, not just acceptance. That awareness doesn't disappear. Next line, his kingdom is everlasting. Once awareness enters, it doesn't leave. You may resist it, delay it, ignore it, but it remains present, waiting, active. Next line, generation to generation. Patterns don't stop on their own. They continue in families, in relationships, in systems, until someone becomes aware. The pattern breakdown. Disruption happens, verse 2. Awareness enters. Perspective shifts. Old patterns feel uncomfortable. You can no longer fully return. Change becomes inevitable. That's why the signs are called great and mighty. Real awakening is not loud, but it is powerful. Because it changes not just what you see, but how you see. The shift. Instead of asking, can I go back to how things were? Ask, what has changed in me that I can no longer ignore? Because that question honors the awakening. The greatest shift in your life is not what happens around you. It is the moment you see clearly. And once you see clearly, you can never truly go back to not knowing. This verse is powerful because it shows Awakening is permanent, even if transformation takes time. Next verse. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house and flourishing in my palace. At rest means feeling stable, no visible conflict. House is your inner world. That's emotions, thoughts. Palace is what looks successful or secure externally. This is the state where everything looks good and feels safe enough not to question. The deep insight. Sometimes what feels like peace is actually fear of disruption. For example, you've come from unstable relationships, from emotional chaos, from painful experiences. So when something feels stable, you protect it at all costs. Even if it means avoiding hard conversations, ignoring red flags, not setting boundaries, not standing up for yourself, that is not peace. It is self-silencing to preserve stability. In relationship, what it looks like. The relationship feels calm. No major arguments. Things seem stable. But what's really happening? You avoid deep conversations. You ignore things that don't sit right. You don't express your full truth. You hold back to keep the peace. Because in your mind, you say, if I push this, I might lose this. The hidden truth. You are not at peace. You are managing the relationship to avoid conflict. The moment truth enters, the moment you speak honestly, set boundaries, and stand up for yourself, conflict will likely happen. And that's what you are avoiding. In career, what it looks like. You finally have a stable job. You are no longer struggling like before. There's no major conflict. Because you don't want to lose this stability, you don't speak up in meetings. You tolerate disrespect or being overlooked. You avoid challenging unfair decisions. You shrink your voice to keep things smooth. In your mind, you say, at least I have a job. I don't want problems. The hidden truth. You are not at peace. You are adjusting yourself to fit the environment. The moment truth enters, the moment you speak up, assert your value, question unfair treatment, you risk conflict, being labeled difficult, losing favor, and that's what keeps you quiet. So what looks like stability is actually fear-based compliance. In religion, what it looks like: you are part of a belief system. You feel a sense of belonging. Everything feels settled. What's really happening? Because you don't want to be rejected or misunderstood, you don't question teachings. You silence your doubts. You repeat what you've been told. You avoid deeper exploration. In your mind, you say, I don't want to go against this. Let me just stay here. The hidden truth: you are not at peace. You are maintaining acceptance by avoiding truth. The moment truth enters, the moment you ask deeper questions, challenge certain ideas, seek understanding beyond what you were taught, you risk being judged, being labeled, being excluded, and that's what keeps you silent. So what looks like spiritual peace is actually fear of losing belonging. Sometimes what you call peace is simply the absence of expression. Because when truth feels risky, silence begins to feel safe. The shift: ask yourself, am I at peace? Or am I just avoiding what might disturb this? Because real peace does not require you to shrink. If your stability depends on silence, then it is not stability. Because the moment you stand in truth, you will discover whether it was ever truly solid at all. Verse 5. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed, and the visions of my head troubled me. Dream represents inner revelation, subconscious truth rising. Afraid means resistance, discomfort, fear of what is being seen. Bed represents place of rest, comfort, vulnerability. Visions of the head represents thoughts, realizations, awareness. This is the moment where something you've been avoiding comes to the surface. The deep insight. After the false peace of verse 4 comes a disturbance you cannot ignore. It may not be a literal dream. It can be a realization, a repeated thought, a situation that keeps happening, a deep inner knowing, and it unsettles you. Why? Because it challenges your comfort, your current reality, and what you've been maintaining. Example, in career, you are comfortable at work. Then suddenly, you realize you are being undervalued. You notice unfair patterns. You feel a growing dissatisfaction. What's really happening? Even when you try to ignore it, the thought keeps coming back. You can't unsee it. You feel restless. That's the dream. Why it troubles you? Because if you accept it, you may have to speak up, make a change, leave, and that disrupts your comfort. In relationship, you've been maintaining peace. Then something doesn't sit right. A pattern becomes clear. You feel emotionally unsettled. What's really happening? Even when you say it's nothing, it keeps coming back. That feeling, that thought, that discomfort, that's the vision. Why it troubles you? Because if you face it, you may have to address the issue, set boundaries, risk conflict, and you are not ready for that. In religion, you've been comfortable in your beliefs. Then a question arises. Something doesn't align anymore. You feel unsettled internally. What's really happening? You try to ignore it, but it keeps resurfacing. It doesn't go away. It grows stronger. That's the dream. Why it troubles you? Because if you follow it, you may have to rethink what you believed. Stand alone. Be misunderstood. And that's uncomfortable. Not every disturbance is a problem. Some are invitations. Because what disturbs you is often trying to get your attention. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this bothering me? Ask, what truth is trying to reach me right now? Because that discomfort is not random. The things that trouble you the most are often the things you've been avoiding the longest. And when they finally rise, they don't come to destroy you. They come to reveal what you can no longer ignore. Next verse. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Decree represents a decision or an inner command. Wise men of Babylon represent external sources of knowledge. Conditioned thinking, learned systems. Interpretation means understanding. Example, in relationship, you feel something is off. A pattern keeps repeating. A boundary is being crossed. Deep down, you already see it clearly. What you do next? Instead of facing it directly, you ask friends. You talk to loved ones. You explain the situation over and over. You say, do you think I'm overreacting? Maybe it's not that serious. What's really happening? It's not just about the advice. It's about seeking permission to ignore what you already know. Because facing the truth may mean conflict. It may mean change. It may mean loss, and you are not ready for that. The inner conflict. So now, you are caught between what you see and what you want to believe. And instead of choosing clarity, you look for validation that makes you comfortable. What this creates? Confusion, delay, and prolonged emotional stress. Because even after asking others, that inner knowing does not go away. In career, you feel it. You are being overlooked. You are undervalued. Something isn't sitting right. Deep down, you already see the truth. What you do next? Instead of acting on it, you ask co-workers what they think. You talk to friends about your job. You keep explaining the situation. You say, maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe this is normal. What do you think I should do? What's really happening? You are not just seeking advice. You are looking for a reason to stay where you are. Because facing the truth may mean leaving your comfort zone, risking financial stability, starting over, and that feels heavy. The inner conflict. You are caught between what you know, this isn't right, and what feels safe, staying. So you keep asking others, hoping someone will say, it's fine, just stay. What this creates? Delayed decisions, frustration, feeling stuck. Because no matter what others say, that inner knowing remains. In religion, you feel it. A teaching doesn't sit right. Something feels off. A question keeps coming up. Deep down, you already sense something is not aligning. What you do next? Instead of exploring it, you ask leaders or elders. You look for teachings that explain it away. You seek reassurance. You say, maybe I just don't understand. Let me not question too much. What's really happening? You are not just seeking clarity. You are seeking permission not to question. Because questioning may mean standing alone, being misunderstood, letting go of what you've known. And that feels uncomfortable. The inner conflict. You are caught between what you feel internally and what you've been taught externally. So you look for voices that help you stay where you are. What this creates? Suppressed curiosity, stagnation in growth, dependence on external authority. Because even after reassurance, that question still remains. Not every question needs an answer from others. Some questions come to reveal what you are ready to see. Instead of asking, what do others think? Ask, what truth am I trying to avoid acting on? Because clarity often feels uncomfortable right before it leads to change. You don't stay confused because you lack answers. You stay confused because you keep searching outside for something you already know within. Verse 7. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them. But they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. Magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, soothsayers represents different external voices, opinions, systems, perspectives. Told the dream means you explain your situation or your experience. Could not interpret means they cannot give true clarity. This is the moment where you seek answers externally, but nothing fully settles within you. What's really happening? You've already felt something in verse 5. Sought external input, verse 6. Now, you receive multiple opinions, but none fully satisfy you. None remove the inner discomfort. None give you complete peace. Why? Because external voices cannot resolve internal knowing. Example, in career, you talk to co-workers, friends, mentors. What you hear: stay, it's stable. Leave, you deserve better. Be patient. Start something new. Different opinions. What you feel: still uncertain, still unsettled, still questioning, because no answer fully aligns. Why? Because deep down, you already know what's not working. In relationship, you explain your situation to others. What you hear: some say give it time. Others say you are overreacting. Some say that's a red flag. Others say try harder. Mixed signals. What you feel: more confused, emotionally drained, still unsettled, because no opinion replaces your inner knowing. In religion, you seek answers from leaders, teachings, different perspectives. What you hear: different interpretations, different explanations, conflicting views. What you feel: still questioning, still searching, still unsettled, because clarity is not landing. This is the realization: clarity cannot be outsourced. Not every voice that speaks carries the answer you need. Because what you are trying to understand is not outside of you. The shift: instead of asking, why am I still confused? Ask, what truth keeps returning, even after everything I've heard? Because that returning truth is your clarity. You can listen to many voices, but the one that will not leave you is the one you were meant to hear all along. And it has been with you from the very beginning. This verse is powerful because it shows the limitation of external validation in resolving inner truth. Next verse. But at the last, Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar, according to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream. Daniel represents inner wisdom, clarity, truth within you. At the last means after all external options are exhausted. Name or identity is how something is perceived or labeled. Spirit of the holy gods means higher awareness or deeper understanding. Told the dream is finally bringing the issue to true awareness. This is the moment where after all the noise, you finally turn inward. The deep insight. Notice the order. External voices first. Verse 7. No clarity. Then at the last, Daniel comes. This shows true clarity often comes last, not first. Because we try everything else first. We seek validation. We gather opinions. Only when that fails, we become still enough to hear ourselves. Example in career. You've asked friends, co-workers, mentors. Nothing settles. Then comes the moment. Quietly within you, you just know, this place is no longer for me. I need to move on. I've outgrown this. No confusion. No debate. Just clarity. In relationship, you've heard all the opinions. Then comes the moment. Deep within, you feel it clearly. This is not aligned. I've been ignoring this. I know what I need to do. No more asking. No more explaining. Just knowing. In religion, you've listened to many teachings. Then comes the moment. Something settles within you. You say, I understand this now in my own way. Not borrowed. Not repeated. Not forced. It becomes personal clarity. That inner clarity is Daniel. Clarity does not shout over noise. It waits until the noise settles. And when it finally speaks, it doesn't argue. It simply is. The shift. Instead of asking, who can tell me what this means? Ask, what do I already know now that everything else has fallen silent? Because truth doesn't compete with opinions. It reveals itself when you are ready to receive it. The answer you were searching for was never in the many voices you heard. It was in the one voice you finally stopped long enough to listen to. This verse is powerful because it shows clarity is not found in quantity of voices, but in depth of awareness. Next verse, verse 9. O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee. Tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Belteshazzar or Daniel represents inner wisdom or clear awareness. Master of the magicians means above external voices. deeper than opinions. Spirit of the Holy Ghost means higher intelligence or truth within. No secret troubleth thee means nothing is hidden from true awareness. Tell me the interpretation is the willingness to face truth. This is the moment where you stop doubting your inner knowing and begin to trust it. The deep insight. Earlier, you were unsure. You asked others. You doubted yourself. Now, you recognize the clarity I need is already within me. This is a shift from seeking to knowing, from doubting to trusting, from avoiding to facing. And this is important. You are not just hearing truth now. You are ready to accept it. Example, in career, you've gone through confusion, opinions, and doubt. Now the shift. You stop asking, what should I do? And instead, you acknowledge, I know I've outgrown this. I know this isn't aligned. I know what needs to change. You begin to trust your clarity. In relationship, you've asked others again and again. Now the shift. You stop needing confirmation. You say within, I see what this is. I've been ignoring it. I understand now. The need for external validation fades. In religion, you've listened to many teachings. Now the shift. You no longer rely on others' interpretations. No longer rely on external authority. You begin to say, I understand this for myself now. This resonates within me. Your understanding becomes personal and grounded. This is the transition from external dependence to internal authority. There comes a point where you no longer need many voices because the one within you has become clear enough to follow. The shift. Instead of asking, do I have the right answer? Ask, am I willing to trust what I already see? Because clarity without trust still keeps you stuck. The moment you stop doubting your inner knowing is the moment your life begins to change. Because now, you are no longer waiting for permission to follow what you already understand. Verse 10. Thus were the visions of my head in my bed. I saw, and behold, a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. Visions of my head represents thoughts, inner awareness, realization. Bed represents place of rest, vulnerability where truth surfaces. Tree represents system, Identity, pattern of life, the same as in Genesis 2 and Genesis 3. Mist of the earth means central place in your life or consciousness, just like the tree in the midst of the garden. Height was great means something that has grown significantly. This is not just a tree. It is a dominant pattern or identity structure within you. In Genesis, you see tree of life, which is aligned awareness, and tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is duality, perception, conditioned thinking. Trees represents what you live from, what you grow into, the system that produces your thoughts, actions, and results. So here in Daniel, this tree is something that has taken root, grown over time, and become central to your life. The deep insight. After awareness, which is Daniel appearing, you begin to see the structure behind your life. Not just events, but the pattern producing those events. This is deeper than something is wrong. It is the system within you that is producing what you experience. Example, in career, you begin to see your need for validation, your attachment to titles, your dependence on external approval. The realization is not just the job, it's the pattern you've built around work, overworking to feel worthy, staying in places too long, tolerating less than you deserve. That is the tree. And it has grown great in height. In relationship, you begin to see repeated relationship cycles, similar types of partners, same emotional patterns. The realization is not just the person, it's the pattern within you. Fear of loss, overgiving, avoiding conflict. That is the tree, and it has been growing over time. In religion, you begin to see why you believe what you believe, how your thinking was shaped. The realization is not just the teaching, it's the entire belief structure. Fear-based thinking, blind acceptance, dependence on authority. That's the tree. And it has become deeply rooted and influential. You don't just wake up to events. You wake up to the pattern that has been creating them all along. The shift. Instead of asking, why does this keep happening? Ask, what is the root system within me producing this? Because once you see the tree, you understand the fruit. The most powerful realization is not seeing what happened. It is seeing what within you has been growing long enough to produce it repeatedly. Next verse. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. Tree grew means the pattern developed over time. Was strong means it became deeply rooted and influential. Reached unto heaven means it influences your higher thinking, perception, and identity. Seen to the end of the earth means it affects every area of your life. This is showing it is not a small habit, but a fully established system within you. The deep insight. What started as a pattern has now become your way of thinking, your way of reacting, your way of living. It is strong, consistent, far-reaching, and it touches your decisions, your relationships, and your sense of self. The key part, it reached unto heaven, meaning this pattern doesn't just affect your actions. It shapes how you think, interpret, and understand life. Example, in career, you realize you've built your identity around work. Your worth is tied to performance. Your decisions revolve around validation. What it means? This is no longer just behavior. It is your entire work identity system. How you think about success, how you respond to challenges, and how you see yourself. It has reached heaven, which is your thinking, and spread across earth, your daily actions. In relationship, you begin to see you approach every relationship the same way. The same fears, habits, and reactions show up. What it means? This is not just one situation. It is a deep relational pattern. Fear of abandonment, avoidance of conflict, overgiving, and it influences how you love, how you communicate, how you respond. It's everywhere. In religion, you begin to see your beliefs shape everything. Your interpretation of life is filtered through them. What it means? This is not just a belief. It is a complete framework. How you see truth, how you see yourself, how you see others. It affects both your thinking, which is heaven, and your actions, earth. What you repeat long enough doesn't just stay a habit. It becomes a system that begins to shape everything. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this happening in different areas of my life? Ask, what pattern has grown strong enough to influence all of them? Because when something shows up everywhere, it is rooted somewhere deep. The most powerful patterns are not the ones you notice occasionally. They are the ones that grow quietly, until they become strong enough to shape your entire life. Next verse. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruits thereof much, and in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and all flesh was fed from it. Leaves were fair means outward appearance looks good. Fruit much means visible result or outcomes. What did Jesus say? You shall know them by their fruits. Visible result or outcomes. Meat represents deeper substance, hard truths, what sustains. Beast of the field represents raw instincts, unrefined reactions. Field is your inner ground, just like the parable of the sower. Shadow means covering, hiding, protection. Fowls of the heaven represents moving or passing thoughts. All flesh means lived experience, your day-to-day life. This verse is showing the pattern you've built is now producing visible results, and everything in your life is feeding from it. The deep insight. This is no longer just a thought, a habit, or a pattern. It is now a system that produces outcomes and sustains your entire experience. And here is the key. It can look good on the outside, which is leaves were fair, but still contain patterns that need to be examined deeply. Example, in career, you are successful, you are productive, you are recognized, the fruit is much. What's underneath? You are overworked. Your worth is tied to performance. You suppress your needs. What the verse reveals: leaves fair means success looks good externally. Fruit here is promotions or achievements. Meat is the hard truth. You are not at peace. Beasts under the shadow means your instincts, such as stress, burnout, frustration, are being covered by your success. Fowls in the branches. Your thoughts: I have to keep going. I can't slow down. Live within that system. All flesh fed. Your entire life revolves around that pattern. In relationship, what it looks like. The relationship appears stable. Others admire it. Everything seems fine, which is leaves were fair. What's underneath? You are not fully expressing yourself. Boundaries are weak. Truth is being avoided. What the verse reveals: fruit, companionship or stability. Meat, hard truth, lack of depth or authenticity. Beasts under the shadow, fear of conflict, fear of loss, emotional suppression hidden under peace. Fowls in the branches, thoughts like don't say too much, keep things calm, live within that structure. All flesh fed. Your daily experience is shaped by that pattern. In religion, what it looks like: strong belief system, community, structure, which is leaves were fair. What's underneath? Questions are suppressed. Understanding is limited. Growth is restricted. What the verse reveals: fruit, belonging or identity. Meat, hard truth, lack of personal understanding. Beast under the shadow, fear of questioning, fear of being wrong, fear of rejection. Fowls in the branches, thought patterns like don't question, just accept. All flesh fed. Your life is shaped by that belief system. Not everything that looks fruitful is rooted in truth, because a system can produce results and still require your silence to maintain them. The shift. Instead of asking, is this working? Ask, what is this producing in me? And what is it costing me? Because results alone do not define alignment. A tree can look beautiful, bear fruit, and sustain many things. But the real question is it producing truth or just maintaining a system you've learned to live in? Verse 13. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, an unholy one came down from heaven. Visions of my head represents inner awareness or realization. Bed is the place of rest where truth surfaces. Watcher means observer, awareness, consciousness. Holy One means pure, unbiased, higher perception. Came down from heaven means higher awareness entering your everyday consciousness. This is the moment where you are no longer just experiencing the pattern. You begin to observe it. The deep insight. Before this point, you were inside the pattern, living from it, identified with it. Now, something shifts. You begin to notice your reactions, see your patterns, observe your thoughts. That observer is the watcher. This is very important. The watcher does not judge, react, or defend. It simply sees clearly, and that changes everything. Example, in career, you are in the same environment, but now you notice how you overwork. You see when you stay silent. You observe how you seek validation. You are no longer just doing it. You are aware of it while it's happening. That's the watcher. You begin to say internally, I see what I'm doing. This is a pattern. Awareness has entered. In relationship, you are in the relationship, but now you notice when you suppress your truth. You see when you avoid conflict. You recognize the cycle in real time. You are no longer lost in it. You are observing it. That's the watcher. You begin to think, I've done this before. I see what's happening here. That awareness creates distance from the pattern. In religion, you are still within the system, but now you notice your automatic responses. You observe your fear of questioning. You see how certain ideas were formed. You are not just believing, you are examining the belief itself. That's the watcher. You begin to say, why do I believe this? Where did this come from? Awareness is active. The most powerful shift is not when your life changes. It is when you begin to see your life clearly. Because once you can observe it, you are no longer fully controlled by it. The shift. Instead of asking, how do I fix this? Ask, can I see this clearly without reacting? Because clear seeing is the first step to true change. The moment you become the observer is the moment you step out of being the pattern. And once you step out, you can finally begin to change it. Next verse, verse 14. He cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it and the fowls from his branches. Cried aloud is clear, undeniable realization. Hew down the tree means dismantle the root pattern or identity. Cut off branches means remove extensions such as behaviors and habits. Shake off leaves means remove appearances, what looks good outwardly. Scatter fruit means disrupt the result it has been producing. Beast leaf means raw instincts lose their covering. Foul leaf means thought patterns detach. This is the moment where awareness moves from seeing to interrupting the system. The deep insight. Up until now, you saw the pattern, which is tree. You saw its impacts, fruit, leaves, system. Now, you can no longer maintain it. Because true awareness does not just observe, it exposes and disrupts. This part is important. The command is not trim the tree, adjust the tree, make it better. It is cut it down. Meaning the pattern cannot be sustained in its current form. Example, in career, you've seen you overwork for validation. You tolerate being undervalued. You silence yourself. The watcher speaks. Now you can't ignore it. You begin to speak up. Set boundaries. Stop overextending yourself. What gets cut down? The version of you that stayed silent. The need for external validation. The pattern of overgiving. What happens next? The system shifts. Your environment reacts. Things may feel unstable because the tree is being removed. In relationship, you've seen, you've been avoiding truth. You've been suppressing your voice. The watcher speaks. Now you speak honestly. You set boundaries. You address what you've been avoiding. What gets cut down? False peace. Silence. People-pleasing patterns. What happens next? Conflict may arise. The dynamic changes. The relationship is tested because the system can no longer stay the same. In religion, you've seen where you've been following without understanding. You've seen where fear shaped your beliefs. The watcher speaks, which is you question deeply. You seek personal understanding. You let go of what no longer aligns. What gets cut down? Blind acceptance. Fear-based thinking. Dependence on external authority. What happens next? You may feel uncertain. You may stand alone. Your perspective shifts completely because the old structure is being dismantled. Awareness does not come to make you comfortable. It comes to make you free. And sometimes freedom begins with disruption. The shift. Instead of asking, why is everything changing? Ask, what pattern can no longer survive now that I see it clearly? Because what you truly see, you can no longer live the same way. The moment you see clearly is the moment the old version of you begins to fall apart. And even though it may feel like loss, it is actually the beginning of your freedom. Next verse. Nevertheless, leave the stamp of its roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let its portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. Stamp of the roots means the core remains. The foundation is still there. Earth is your everyday life or your natural awareness. Band of iron and brass represents restriction, limitation, containment. Tender grass represents early stage of growth, something not fully developed. Dew of heaven means subtle nourishment from higher awareness. Beasts are your raw instincts and refined nature. Grass of the earth is basic grounded level of existence. This is showing the pattern is cut down, but the root is not completely removed. Transformation is not instant. Even after awareness, the tendency, the root, the habit still exists at a deeper level. Important truth. You may see clearly, make changes, disrupt the pattern, but the root can still be there. That's why old thoughts return. Old feelings surface. Old tendencies try to reappear. This is the stamp. Example, in career, you begin to set boundaries. Speak up. Value yourself more. But internally, you may still feel the urge to overwork. The need for validation. The fear of speaking too much. Even though you've changed your behavior, the root is still there. Band of iron and brass. Now the pattern is restricted, not fully in control anymore. You notice it, you manage it, but it hasn't completely disappeared. In relationship, what happens? You begin to speak your truth, set boundaries, address issues, but internally, you may still feel fear of conflict, desire to withdraw, urge to people please. That's the root. What's different now? Before, it controlled you. Now, you see it and regulate it. In religion, you begin to question, explore, and think for yourself. But internally, you may still feel fear of being wrong, guilt from past conditioning, pull toward old beliefs. That's the root. What's happening now? It's no longer dominating, but it still exists in some form. Healing is not the absence of old patterns. It is the awareness that no longer lets them rule you. The shift. Instead of asking, why do I still feel this way? Ask, can I see this without letting it take over again? Because the presence of the root does not mean the pattern is still in control. The tree may be cut down, but the root reminds you that transformation is not a moment. It is a process that unfolds with awareness. Verse 16. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. Heart represents mindset, inner state, way of being. Change from man's means shift from conscious awareness. Beast heart means operating from instinct, reaction, ego. 7 times means a complete cycle, process of transformation. This is showing a shift in how you experience yourself and life during transformation. The deep insight. After the pattern is cut down, verse 14, and the root remains, verse 15, there is a period where you are no longer who you used to be, but you are not yet fully aligned either. This creates a strange experience. You may feel unsettled, disoriented, emotionally reactive at times. In between two versions of yourself, that's the beast's heart. Not because you've gone backward, but because you are in the middle of transformation. Example, in career, you've started to set boundaries, speak up, see your value. But internally, you may still react emotionally, feel unsure, question your decisions. Some days you feel clear, other days you feel triggered. What this means? You are no longer the old version of yourself, but not fully stabilized in the new version yet. In relationship, you begin to express yourself, stand in truth, break old patterns, but internally, you may still feel defensive, react quickly, and struggle to stay grounded. You are learning, but not fully stable yet. What this means? Old instinct beasts still surface while awareness is growing. In religion, what happens? You've begun to question, think for yourself, explore deeper meaning, but internally, you may still feel guilt, feel fear, react to certain ideas. Part of you is free. Part of you is still conditioned. 7 times the process. This is important. Transformation is not instant. 7 times represents a complete cycle of growth and stabilization. Learning, unlearning, relearning, integrating, until the new state becomes natural. Becoming aware does not immediately make you stable. It begins a process where you learn how to live from that awareness. The shift. Instead of asking, why am I still reacting this way? Ask, am I learning how to respond differently over time? Because growth is not perfection. It is progress in awareness. Transformation feels uncomfortable. Not because something is wrong, but because you are no longer who you were and not yet fully who you are becoming. Verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. Decree of the watchers means decision arising from awareness. Holy ones represent higher and biased truth within. The living is your conscious day-to-day experience. Most High ruleth means higher awareness is the true authority. Kingdom of men represents human systems, ego-driven patterns. Given it and set it up means what rules is determined by what you align with. Basis of men means the lowest unrefined patterns, ego and instinct. This is saying all of this is happening so you realize what is truly in control within you. The deep insight. From verse 1 to now, a pattern ruled the tree. It grew strong. It shaped your life. Awareness came. It was cut down. You entered a process of change. And now we see why. So you can recognize what you allow to rule determines your experience. The key truth. If awareness is not ruling, something else will. And often, it is the lowest part of you. Ego, fear, reaction, conditioning. Example, in career, you've seen you were operating from validation. Fear of loss influenced your choices. Comfort kept you stuck. The realization, now you see, what was ruling your career was not truth. It was fear and external approval. The shift. You begin to ask, am I making decisions from fear or from clarity and alignment? That determines what rules your kingdom. In relationship, you've seen, you tolerated things to keep peace. You avoided truth to prevent conflict. The realization, what was ruling was not love. It was fear of losing the person. The need for approval. Avoidance of discomfort. The shift. You begin to choose truth over fear. And that changes the entire dynamic. In religion, you've seen, you followed without questioning. You relied on external authority. The realization, what was ruling was not understanding. It was fear, conditioning, and dependence. The shift, Now you begin to seek truth from within. Your life is always being governed. The question is not if something is ruling, it is what is ruling. The shift. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what was I allowing to rule me before I became aware? Because awareness reveals the true source of your experience. The purpose of the disruption was never to destroy you. It was to show you that what rules within you will always shape the life you live. Next verse. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof. For as much as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. This dream I have seen is owning your experience. All the wise men not able means external voices failed. Thou art able means inner clarity is sufficient. Spirit is in thee means the answer is already within. This is the moment where you stop searching outside and fully acknowledge where clarity comes from. What's really happening? This is deeper than verse 9. Before, you recognized inner clarity. Now, you admit nothing outside of me can resolve this. This is powerful because no more pretending, no more seeking validation, no more outsourcing truth, just honesty. Example, in career, you've asked others, you've compared opinions, you try to rationalize your situation. The realization, you finally admit, no one can decide this for me. Not your co-workers, not your friends, not your circumstances. You already know what is not working and what needs to change. This shift, you stop looking for confirmation and begin to move toward decision. In relationship, you've explained your situation to others. You've sought reassurance. You tried to see it differently. The realization, you admit, no one else can interpret this for me because you are the one experiencing it. The shift, you stop asking, what do you think? And begin to accept, I already know what this is. In religion, you've listened to teachings, asked questions, compared interpretations. The realization, you admit, no one can give me this understanding. It must be seen, understood, and realized within you. The shift, you move from following and repeating to personally knowing. There comes a moment when you stop asking the world to explain what you already feel. And in that moment, you step into responsibility for your own truth. The shift. Instead of asking, who can explain this to me? Ask, am I ready to accept what I already understand? Because truth does not need more voices. It needs your acceptance. Clarity is not something you find. It is something you finally stop avoiding. And the moment you accept it is the moment your life begins to move in a new direction. Verse 19. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. Daniel is your inner wisdom or true clarity. Astonished means pause, stillness, weight of realization. 1 hour means a period of processing, not literal time. Thoughts troubled him means truth is heavy, not always comfortable. This is the moment where clarity is present, but it is being processed before it is spoken. This is the same silence in the book of Job. Job's friends sat in silence before speaking because the situation was deep, complex, and weighty. It's the same silence in Revelation 8 verse 1. There was silence in heaven. Before revelation unfolds, there is stillness. The deep insight. Not all truth comes immediately with words. Sometimes you feel it first. It sits with you. It unsettles you. It makes you pause. Because what you are seeing is not light or surface level. When something is deeply true, it often slows you down, makes you reflect, and removes the rush to speak. Example, in career, you've reached clarity. This is no longer for me. But before acting, you pause. You think deeply. You feel the weight of the decision. You consider what it means. Not confusion, but processing. Because this decision affects your future and changes your direction. In relationship, you see it clearly. This is not aligned. But instead of reacting, you become quiet. You observe. You reflect. You feel the truth deeply. No rushing. No explaining. Just knowing and processing. In religion, something clicks within you. You understand something deeply. But instead of speaking immediately, you go quiet. You reflect. You sit with it. You allow it to settle. Because it's not surface level understanding. It is transformational. Not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. Some truths need to be felt, understood, and settled within you first. Because once spoken, they begin to change things. The shift. Instead of asking, why am I quiet right now? Ask, am I allowing this truth to fully settle within me? Because silence is not always confusion. It is often depth. The deepest truths do not rush to be spoken. They arrive and invite you to be still enough to fully understand them. Verse 19. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The king speaks means the ruling mindset invites truth. Let it not trouble thee means resistance to discomfort. Daniel answered means inner wisdom response. To them that hate thee, enemies, what is sin feels difficult, confronting. This is the moment where truth is ready to be expressed, but it is heavy to receive. The deep insight. After silence, in the first part of verse 19, truth begins to come forward. But notice, there is still hesitation. Why? Because real truth challenges the current structure. Even when you ask for clarity, part of you still says, I hope it's not what I think. Example, in career, you've reached clarity. This job is no longer aligned. But internally, you still hope, maybe I can stay. Maybe it will change, even though you know the truth. What's happening? You asked for clarity, but part of you is not ready for the implications of that clarity. In relationship, you see clearly this relationship is not aligned. But internally, you still feel, I hope I'm wrong. Maybe it's not that serious, even though you've already seen it. What's happening? You want truth, but you don't want the pain that comes with it. In religion, you realize this belief may not be what I thought. But internally, you still think, I hope I misunderstood. Let me not go too far, because accepting it may change your worldview, separate you from others. Sometimes the truth you seek is the truth you are hoping is not real. The shift. Instead of asking, is this really true? Ask, am I resisting this because it's unclear or because it's uncomfortable? Because discomfort does not make truth less true. The hardest truths are not the ones you don't understand. They are the ones you understand clearly, but wish you didn't have to face. This moment is powerful because it shows truth is not just about seeing, it's about accepting what you see. Verse 20. The tree that thou sawest which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth. Tree represents the core pattern or identity system. Grew and was strong means developed over time, deeply rooted. Reached unto heaven means shaped your thinking. Seen to all the earth means affected every area of your life. This is the moment where the pattern is clearly identified and named. The deep insight. Before you can change anything, you must see it clearly for what it is. Not blaming others. Not explaining it away. Not minimizing it. But recognizing this is the system I've been living from. Important truth. Clarity is not vague. It becomes specific. Not something feels off, but this is the pattern. Example, in career, you no longer say work is stressful. You now see, I've built my identity around validation and performance. The realization, you overwork to feel worthy. You stay where you are not valued. You measure yourself by external results. That is the tree, not the job, the pattern behind it. In relationship, you no longer say relationships are hard. You now see, I avoid conflict and suppress my truth to keep things. The realization, you overgive. You ignore red flags. You fear losing connection. That is the tree. In religion, you no longer say, I'm just following what I was taught. You now see, I've been operating from fear and external authority. The realization, you avoid questioning. You depend on others for understanding. You suppress your own insight. That is the tree. Transformation begins not when something changes, but when something becomes clear enough that you can no longer deny it. The shift. Instead of asking, what's wrong? Ask, what exactly is the pattern I am operating from? Because precision in awareness leads to real change. You don't break a pattern by vaguely feeling it. You break it when you see it clearly enough to call it by its name. Verse 21. Whose leaves were fair, and the fruits thereof much, and in it was meat for all, and that which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. Leaves were fair means outward appearance still looks good. Fruit much, consistent visible results. Meat for all means the system sustains your life. Beasts dwell under it means instinct operates within it. Fowls dwell in branches means thoughts live within it. This is emphasizing this pattern is not random. It is the system your life has been built around. This verse repeats verse 12 for a reason. To show you the depth of dependency. You are not just influenced by the pattern. Your life is organized around it. Your thoughts, fowls, your instincts, beasts, and your daily experience, flesh, all operate within this system. Why this matters? Because when the tree is cut down, verse 14, it will feel like everything is being disrupted. Not just one area, but your entire way of living. Example, in career, what it looks like. Your schedule, your goals, your decisions, all revolve around work. What you now see, your thoughts are about work. Your emotions are tied to work. Your sense of worth comes from work. Work is not just what you do. It's the system you live from. What happens when it's challenged? You feel lost. You question yourself. You don't know what comes next because everything was feeding from it. In relationship, what it looks like. Your decisions, your behavior, your emotions, all revolve around maintaining the relationship. What you now see, your thoughts are shaped by it. Your reactions are influenced by it. Your identity is tied to it. The relationship is not just part of your life. It's the structure your life revolves around. What happens when truth enters? You feel unstable. You fear losing everything. You struggle to detach because everything was feeding from it. In religion, what it looks like. Your worldview, your decisions, your identity, all revolve around a belief system. What you now see, your thoughts are shaped by it. Your reactions come from it. Your understanding of life is filtered through it. It's not just belief. It's the foundation of your life. What happens when it's questioned? You feel shaken. You feel uncertain. You feel exposed because everything was built on it. The hardest patterns to release are not the ones you dislike. They are the ones your life has learned to depend on. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this so hard to change? Ask, how much of my life has been built around this? Because the deeper the root, the greater the shift required. It's not just a pattern, it's a system. And when a system is all you've known, letting it go feels like losing everything until you realize you are not the system. Verse 22. It is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong. For thy greatness is grown and reached unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. It is thou means this pattern is not outside, it is you. King is the ruling mindset within you. Grown and become strong means developed over time. Reached unto heaven means it shapes your thinking and perception. Dominion to the earth means it influences your daily life and actions. This is the moment where the pattern is no longer described. It is identified as your lived identity. What's really happening? Up until now, the tree was described. The system was explained. Now there is no distance. It is not something happening. It is not something affecting you. This is what you have become identified with. This is the hardest moment because it removes blame, distance, excuses, and brings ownership. Example, in career, before you thought this job is the problem. Now you see, it is me. My need for validation, my pattern of overworking, my tolerance for being undervalued. It's not just the environment, it's the pattern I've been operating from. In relationship, before, you thought this relationship is the issue. Now you see, this is me. My fear of losing people, my avoidance of truth, my pattern of overgiving. It's not just the other person, it's the pattern within me. In religion, before, you thought this belief system is limiting. Now you see, this is me. My fear of questioning, my dependence on external authority, my resistance to personal understanding. It's not just what I was taught, it's what I accepted and lived from. Transformation deepens when you stop saying, this is happening to me, and begin to see, this is what I've been living from. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this in my life? Ask, what within me has been creating this? Because ownership is where real change begins. The turning point in your life is not when you see the problem. It is when you realize you are not separate from it. And in that realization, you gain the power to become something different. Verse 23. And whereas the king saw a watcher, an unholy one coming down from heaven and saying, hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth. This is the decree of the Most High. Watcher and Holy One means awareness and higher truth. Hew the tree down means dismantle the pattern completely. Leave the stump means the root remains, the process continues. Decree of the Most High means this is not random, it is necessary. This is the moment where you realize the change is not optional, it is required. The deep insight. Notice this is being repeated again. Why? Because part of you may still be thinking, maybe I can manage it. Maybe I can keep part of it. Maybe it's not that serious. This verse removes that illusion. The truth becomes clear. The pattern cannot be adjusted. It cannot be negotiated. It cannot be half removed. It must be fully dismantled at the root level of your identity. Example, in career, you've realized you've built your identity around validation. You tolerate less than you deserve. The temptation, you may think, let me just adjust slightly. Let me stay, but try to manage it better. What this verse reveals, that approach won't work. Because the issue is not the situation, it's the pattern itself. The real shift, you must redefine your worth. Change how you show up. Possibly change your environment. That is cutting the tree. In relationship, you've seen, you suppress truth. You avoid conflict. The temptation, you may think, let me just communicate a little more. Let me try to balance it. What this verse reveals, you can't keep silence, fear, avoidance, and expect real peace. The real shift, you must speak truth, set boundaries, accept the outcome. That is dismantling the system. In religion, you've seen fear-based beliefs, dependence on external authority. The temptation, you may think, let me keep some of it. Let me not go too far. What this verse reveals, you can't hold fear, blind acceptance, and still walk in true understanding. The real shift, you must let go of what no longer aligns. You must embrace personal clarity. You must stand in your understanding. The pattern breakdown. Awareness reveals the pattern. You begin to accept it. Resistance tries to negotiate. Truth is reaffirmed. The need for full change becomes clear. Partial change is no longer enough. This is the point of no return in awareness. There comes a point where truth is no longer a suggestion. It becomes a necessity. The shift. Instead of asking, can I keep part of this? Ask, what must I fully release for me to truly change? Because transformation does not happen halfway. The pattern doesn't fall apart because life is against you. It falls apart because you've seen too much to keep living the same way. Verse 24. This is the interpretation, O King, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my Lord the King. Interpretation, the true meaning of what you've seen. Decree of the Most High, higher truth. Ultimate reality, awareness in action. Come upon thee. This is now your experience. This is the moment where you understand that what is happening is not random. It is a necessary inner process. The deep insight. Everything from the tree, the cutting down, the watcher, the process is now revealed as a form of judgment, but not in the way people usually think. Judgment here is not punishment. It is revelation of truth. It is seeing clearly, recognizing patterns, and understanding what has been ruling. That is judgment. This aligns with you shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Awareness exposing what was hidden. Judgment is simply light revealing what is already there. Example, in career, you finally see you've been undervaluing yourself. You've been staying out of fear. You've been operating from validation. The realization, nothing new was added, it was revealed. What this means, the discomfort is not punishment. The realization is not attack. It is truth becoming visible. In relationship, you now see the pattern, the avoidance, the imbalance. The realization, the relationship didn't sadly change. You see it differently now. In religion, you begin to see what was fear-based, what was conditioned, what was not understood. The realization, truth didn't sadly appear. It was always there. Now you see it. The pattern breakdown. Awareness comes. Pattern is revealed. Truth becomes clear. You understand what was happening. You recognize its impact. This is judgment as revelation. Judgment is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens within you. Let me ask you a question. What did Jesus say? He said, the kingdom of God Some translations say the kingdom of heaven is within you. So if the kingdom is within you, where is the throne? Within you. So if the throne is within you, where is judgment happening? Within you. It's not an external event. It happens within you. When you begin to see what was always there, but hidden by lack of awareness, that is what to appear before the judgment seat of Christ is. It's not a future event. The judgment seat of Christ is truth becoming clear. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is being revealed to me right now? Because revelation is the beginning of transformation. The moment of judgment is not the moment you are condemned. It is the moment you finally see clearly what has been shaping your life all along. Verse 25. That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Driven from men means separation from your usual identity or your social self. Beast of the field is your raw instincts, your unrefined reactions. Eat grass means operate at a basic level, stripped of former identity. 7 times means a full cycle of transformation. Till thou know means until realization becomes undeniable. Most High ruleth means higher awareness is the true authority. This is the moment where the illusion of who you thought you were begins to collapse. The deep insight. After clarity comes, which is judgment, there is often a breaking down of identity, not punishment, but exposure of what was false or inflated. What this feels like. You may experience disconnection from your old self, emotional instability, loss of certainty, feeling not like yourself. That's been driven from men. You are no longer the identity you built, no longer the role you played, no longer the version of yourself you believed in. This is the same as the man and his wife driven from the garden. It's not exile. It is transformation. Being driven from men or from the garden means you are no longer the identity you built. You are no longer the role you played. You are no longer the version of yourself you believed in. Example, in career, you realize your identity was tied to your job. Your worth came from performance, the experience, Now you feel lost. You feel uncertain. You feel disconnected from your usual confidence. You are no longer operating from your old system, but you haven't stabilized into the new one yet. Next line with the beasts. Emotional reaction surface. Fear appears. Survival thinking kicks in. You are being stripped down to rebuild differently. In relationship, what happens? You face the truth about the relationship, the experience. You feel vulnerable, reactive at times, emotionally exposed. Old instincts show up, such as fear of loss, the need for validation, the desire to hold on. That's the beast nature surfacing. Not to shame you, but to reveal what still needs healing. In religion, what happens? You begin to see beyond what you were taught. The experience. You may feel uncertain, disconnected, without a clear framework. What once gave you identity no longer holds the same power. Next line, eating grass. This means you return to basics. You rebuild understanding from the ground up. Till thou know. This process continues until you truly understand what should be ruling within you, not ego, not fear, not conditioning, but awareness. Sometimes you feel lost, not because you are falling apart, but because the version of you that was built on illusion is being stripped away. The shift. Instead of asking, why do I feel like this? Ask, what part of me is being released right now? Because what feels like loss may actually be liberation. You are not being reduced. You are being returned to a place where what is real can finally take root. Verse 26. And whereas they commanded to leave the stem of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Stamp of the root means something essential remains within you. Kingdom shall be sure means restoration, stability returns. After thou shalt have known, after true realization. Heavens do rule means higher awareness governs, not ego. This is the moment where you realize the process was not to destroy you, but to restore you properly. What's really happening? Everything you went through, the disruption, the stripping down, the confusion, the exposure was not the end. It was preparation. The key truth, nothing real is lost. When it's removed, false identity, illusion, patterns that don't align, This is what Revelation means by those not found written in the book of life are cast into the fire. It's not talking about people. It's not about people. Fire represents purification, refinement, transformation. Fire does not destroy gold, it refines it. Many people assumed it's talking about because of the day that was written. So they think it's talking about people. But ask yourself a question. It is the body that feels pain. The body. So it doesn't even add up to say souls will be tortured in fire. It doesn't add up because it's the body that feels pain. Those not found, it's not talking about people, but patterns. Anything that doesn't align with truth is transformed. What is removed? False identity, illusions, patterns that don't align. What remains? The true foundation, the stamp. Your true self is what remains. In career, what happens? You went through feeling lost, questioning your path, letting go of old patterns. Now they shift. You begin to see your value clearly. You begin to make aligned decisions. You choose environments that reflect your worth. Stability returns, but differently. Not based on validation or fear, but based on clarity and alignment. In relationship, what happens? You went through emotional exposure, conflict, breaking old patterns. Now they shift. You begin to communicate honestly, set boundaries, build from truth. Peace returns, but now it is real, not maintained. In religion, you went through questioning, letting go, feeling uncertain. Now the shift, you begin to understand truth personally. You stand in your own awareness. You connect without fear. Your kingdom returns, but now it is grounded in understanding. Next line, after thou shalt have known. This is key. Restoration does not happen before awareness or before realization. It happens after you truly see and understand, not intellectually, but deeply. What was taken from you was never truly yours to begin with. And what remains is what can actually sustain you. The shift. Instead of asking, will I be okay after this? Ask, what is being rebuilt in me now that I see clearly? Because clarity always leads to stability. You are not losing your life. You are losing the version of it that could not stand in truth. And what is rebuilt after will not need to be protected because it is rooted in what is real. Verse 27. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. Counsel means guidance, instruction from inner wisdom. Break off means consciously stop, interrupt the pattern. Sins or iniquities represent misalignment or distorted patterns. Righteousness is alignment with truth. Showing mercy is compassion, balance, humility. Lengthening of tranquility is sustained peace. This is the moment where awareness must now become action. The deep insight. Up until now, you've seen the pattern. You've understood it. You've gone through the disruption. Now, you are being shown how to live differently. The key truth. Seeing clearly is not enough. You must act from what you see. Otherwise, the pattern can return. The cycle can repeat. Example, in career, you've realized you've been undervaluing yourself. You've been staying out of fear. The instruction. Now, you must set boundaries. Speak up. Make aligned decisions. That's breaking off the pattern. Righteousness is not perfection, it's alignment. Right standing. This is choosing what reflects your true value. In relationships, you've seen you've been suppressing your voice. You've been avoiding conflict. The instruction. Now you must speak honestly. Set boundaries. Act from truth. Showing mercy. This is important. Not harshness. Not aggression, but truth with compassion. In religion, you've realized you've been following without understanding. The instruction. Now you must seek truth personally. Let go of fear-based thinking. Walk in what you understand. Lengthening of tranquility. Peace is not automatic. It is sustained when you live in alignment, when you act from awareness. Otherwise, the old pattern can return. Awareness shows you the truth, but your actions determine whether that truth becomes your life. The shift. Instead of asking, I understand, now what? Ask, what does this understanding require me to change? Because truth always calls for alignment. Clarity without action keeps you in the same cycle. But the moment you begin to live from what you now see, peace is no longer temporary. It becomes your way of being. Verse 28. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. All this means everything that was revealed. warned, and explained. Came upon the king means it became his actual experience. This is the moment where what was seen now becomes lived reality. The deep insight. You were shown the pattern, given understanding, advised on what to do. But now, life unfolds based on what was actually applied, not just understood. The key truth: awareness does not stop consequences if it is not followed by alignment. You can see clearly, understand deeply, even agree with the truth. But if you don't act on it, the pattern still plays out. Example, in career, you realized you are undervalued. You've outgrown the environment, but you stay the same. You don't speak up. You don't make a move. You keep adjusting. What happens next? Frustration increases. Opportunities pass. The same issues repeat. All this came upon you. In relationship, you saw the imbalance, the pattern, the truth, but you don't act. You keep quiet. You avoid conflict. You stay the same. What happens next? The cycle repeats. The pain deepens. The situation escalates because the pattern wasn't broken. In religion, you realize certain beliefs don't align. You need deeper understanding. But you don't change. You suppress your questions. You stay in the same mindset. What happens next? Confusion remains. Growth stalls. Inner conflict continues because truth was not lived. The pattern breakdown. Truth is revealed. Understanding is given. Instruction is provided. Action is not fully taken. The pattern continues. Experience reflects misalignment. This is unapplied awareness becoming lived consequence. Seeing the truth does not change your life. Living the truth does. The shift. Instead of asking, why is this still happening? Ask, have I fully aligned my actions with what I now understand? Because life responds to what you live, not just what you know. The difference between change and repetition is not awareness, it is action. And until what you see becomes how you live, the cycle will continue as your experience. Verse 29. At the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. End of 12 months represents a full period of time, completion of a cycle. Walked in the palace means still operating in the same identity or system. Kingdom of Babylon represents the structured system built by ego, control, and self-reliance. This is the moment where there is a delay between awareness and consequence. The deep insight. After everything, the warning, the clarity, the instruction, nothing happens immediately. Life seems normal, stable, unchanged, and this creates a dangerous illusion. Maybe it's not that serious. Maybe I don't need to change. The key truth: delay is not denial. Just because nothing happens immediately doesn't mean nothing is happening. Example, in career, you realize you've outgrown the job. You are undervalued, but time passes. Weeks, months, nothing drastic happens. You stay. What this creates? Comfort returns. Urgency fades. You settle back into the pattern. The delay reinforces the illusion. In relationship, you saw the truth clearly, but time passes. Things seem calm again. No major conflict. You think maybe it's okay. What this creates? You go back to old habits. You ignore what you saw. The cycle resets. In religion, what happens? You begin to question and see deeper. But time passes. You go back to routine. Nothing forces a decision. You settle. What this creates? You silence the awareness. You delay growth. Time can make you feel like what you saw was not that important. But truth does not fade. It simply waits until it is faced. The shift. Instead of asking, nothing has happened yet, ask, am I using time as a reason to delay what I already know? Because delay does not remove truth. The most dangerous moment is not when you don't know. It is when you know, but time passes and you begin to live as if you never saw it. Verse 30. The king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I have built by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? The king spake. The ruling mindset expresses itself. Great Babylon is the system or identity you've built. I have built a self-reliance, personal ownership. Might of my power is ego strength, control. Honor of my majesty is pride, self-exaltation. This is the moment where the ego reassets itself, even after awareness. Example, in relationship, what happens? Someone says, you had nothing when I met you. I struggled with you. I built you. I won't let someone else enjoy what I worked for. On the surface, it sounds like sacrifice. commitment, loyalty. What's really happening? Underneath, it is identity plus ownership plus ego. It shifts from love to possession. The hidden mindset. You are what you are because of me. You owe me your growth. You belong to me because I invested in you. That is not love. It is control wrapped in sacrifice. The deep insight. This is where Daniel 4 verse 30 becomes clear. I have built this in relationships becomes I made you. And once that belief settles in, the person is no longer seen as an individual or a person with free will, but as something you own because you contributed to it. The danger of this pattern, it leads to emotional control, guilt manipulation, fear-based attachment, and internally it blocks real love. Because real love does not say, you are nothing without me. It understands, I may have contributed, but I am not your source. What this creates? You invest in someone, they grow. You attach your identity to their growth. You begin to feel ownership. You resist letting go. You justify staying through control. This is ego attaching itself to contribution. In career, what it sounds like. This place is what it is because of me. I put in the work when no one else did. I carried this team. They can't replace me. On the surface, dedication, hard work, loyalty. What's really happening? It shifts from contribution to ownership of the system and identity. The hidden mindset. This success exists because of me. I am the reason this works. Without me, this falls apart. That is ego attaching identity to achievement. The deep insight. Just like in Daniel, I built Babylon. In career, it becomes, I built this success. But here's the truth. You contributed. You participated. You showed up. But you are not the source of everything. What this creates? Fear of being replaced. Inability to live unhealthy environments. Over-identification with work. Because now, your identity is tied to what you built. In religion, what it sounds like. I understand this deeper than others. I've figured this out. People need to learn from me. I know the truth. On the surface, growth, insight, spiritual understanding. What's really happening? It shifts from understanding to spiritual ego. The hidden mindset. I have reached a higher level. Others are less aware. My understanding defines me. This is still identity built on knowledge. The deep insight. Just like in Daniel, I built this kingdom. In spirituality, it becomes, I built this understanding. But the subtle truth is you didn't create truth. You became aware of it. There's a difference. What this creates? Pride in knowledge, separation from others, loss of humility, the Lucifer pattern. And ironically, it becomes another form of the same pattern. The unified pattern across all example. Relationship, I built you. Career, I built this. Religion, I understand more. Same root. Identity plus ownership plus ego. The ego does not disappear. It evolves. And sometimes it hides in love, success, even in spirituality, claiming ownership of what it did not create. The shift. Instead of asking, what have I built? Ask, am I identifying myself as the source of this? Because contribution is not ownership. You can contribute to something, help grow something, even nurture something. But the moment you say, this exists because of me, you step into the same pattern that must eventually be brought down. Verse 31. While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, today it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. While the word was in his mouth means the moment the mindset is expressed. Voice from heaven means higher awareness, truth responding. Kingdom is departed means loss of control, authority removed from ego. This is the moment where the instant ego fully identifies itself. Awareness responds immediately. The deep insight. Notice the timing. Not later. Not after a delay, immediately. This shows when pride becomes fully conscious, it cannot coexist with truth anymore. The key truth. The moment you clearly say this is ego, this is pride, this is control, that pattern begins to lose its power instantly. Not because life punishes you, but because awareness exposes it fully. Example, in career, what happens? You say or think, I built this, they need me. Then suddenly something clicks. Wait, this is ego. What happens instantly? The attachment weakens. The illusion of control fades. You no longer feel the same ownership. The kingdom, ego control, begins to depart. In relationship, what happens? You think, they are nothing without me. I made them. Then awareness hits. This is not love. This is control. What happens instantly? Your perspective changes. The emotional grip loosens. You see the person differently. The control begins to break. In religion, what happens? You think, I understand more than others. Then awareness comes. This is ego again, just in another form. What happens instantly? Pride dissolves. Humility returns. You see truth more clearly. The false authority fades. Pattern breakdown. Ego speaks. Identity attaches to something. Awareness recognizes it. Illusion is exposed. Control weakens immediately. This is instant disruption through awareness. The moment you see something clearly is the moment it begins to lose its hold on you. Because what is seen in truth cannot continue in illusion. The shift. Instead of asking, why did everything change so fast? Ask, what did I just become aware of that I can no longer believe the same way? Because awareness changes things instantly. The fall of the ego does not begin with time. It begins in a moment when truth speaks and what you once believed can no longer stand. Verse 32. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. And 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. Driven from men means separation from your former identity. Beasts of the field represents raw instincts, emotional reactions. Eat grass as oxen means reduced to a basic level of being. 7 times means a complete process, not instant stabilization. Until thou know means until realization becomes lived truth. Most High ruleth is awareness, not ego, is the true authority. This is the moment where what shifted instantly in verse 31 is now experienced over time. What's really happening? Verse 31 showed the instant collapse of illusion. Now, verse 32 shows the process of living without that illusion. This is important. Seeing clearly is instant, but living from that clarity takes time. Example, in career, you realize your identity was tied to work. Your worth came from performance. The experience after. Now you may feel less certain, less driven by the old pressure, unsure of your next step. You are no longer controlled by validation, but you haven't fully stabilized in your new identity. Next line with the beasts. Old fears come up. Survival thoughts appear. Emotional reactions surface. Not because you are regressing, but because deeper layers are being revealed. In relationship, what happens? You see clearly where control existed, where attachments defined your actions. The experience after. You may feel emotionally exposed, less certain about how to respond. Pulled between old habits and new awareness, you are learning a new way of relating. In religion, what happens? You realize what was fear-based and what was conditioned. The experience after. You may feel without a clear structure, questioning everything. In a space of rebuilding, you've left the old, but are still forming the new. Until thou know. This is key. It's not enough to understand truth. You must become established in it. That's why it says, until thou know. Not intellectually, but experientially. The pattern breakdown. Ego speaks, verse 30. Awareness responds instantly, verse 31. Illusion collapses. Identity begins to dissolve. Old instincts surface. Time passes, process. New awareness becomes stable. This is transformation from awareness to embodiment. The moment you see clearly is the beginning, not the end. Because after seeing, you must learn how to live from that truth. The shift. Instead of asking, why don't I feel stable yet? Ask, am I allowing this process to fully unfold within me? Because stability comes through integration. You don't return to who you were. After you see clearly, you go through a process where everything falls away until what remains can finally stand as who you truly are. Verse 33. The same hour was the thing fulfilled. He was driven from men and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. Same hour fulfilled means what was spoken now manifests immediately. Driven from men means loss of former identity and social self. Eat grass as oxen means reduced to a basic stripped down state. Dew of heaven means subtle nourishment from awareness still present. Hair like eagle's feathers means change in perception, unfamiliar identity. Nails like bird's claws means unrefined behavior, raw expression. This is the moment where the inner transformation becomes outwardly and experientially real. The deep insight. Everything that was seen, awareness, spoken, truth, initiated, shift, now becomes lived experience. Important truth. Transformation is not always peaceful, not always clean, not always comfortable. Sometimes it looks like disruption, exposure, and unfamiliarity. Example in career, what happens? You've had the realization. Now it shows externally. You may leave the job. Your behavior changes. Others notice the difference. You are no longer operating the same. no longer playing the same role. How it feels: uncertain, unfamiliar, like you don't fully recognize yourself yet, because the old identity is gone and the new one is still forming. In relationship, what happens? You've seen the truth internally. Now it shows. You speak differently. You respond differently. You no longer tolerate the same things. Others notice you've changed. How it feels: you feel exposed. You feel misunderstood at times. You are not fully comfortable yet because you are no longer who you were. In religion, what happens? You've had a shift in understanding. Now it shows. Your perspective changes. Your language changes. Your approach changes. Others may question you, not understand you, see you differently. Next line, the dew of heaven. This is important. It's saying, even in this state, you are not abandoned. Awareness is still present. Truth is still guiding. Growth is still happening, even when it feels unfamiliar. The pattern breakdown. Truth is revealed. Ego collapses. Identity shifts. Change becomes visible. Old structure is gone. New self is forming. Awareness continues to support. This is full manifestation of transformation. Sometimes growth doesn't look like elevation. Sometimes it looks like everything you knew no longer fits. The shift. Instead of asking, why do I feel so different? Ask, am I allowing myself to become who I am now aware of? Because transformation always feels unfamiliar before it feels natural. The moment of change is not when you understand. It is when your life begins to reflect what you can no longer ignore. Verse 34. And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned unto me. End of the days means completion of the process. Lifted up my eyes unto heaven means a shift in perspective. Awareness returns. Understanding return means clarity, stability, right perception restored. This is the moment where, after the breakdown, clarity returns, but at a higher level. The deep insight. Everything you went through, the fall, the confusion, the loss of identity, the exposure, was leading to this true understanding. Key truth. You don't return to who you were. You return to clarity without illusion. What changed? Before, you thought you were the source. You identified with what you built. You operated from ego. Now you see clearly. You understand deeply. You no longer confuse yourself with the system. That is restored awareness. Example, in career, you went through discomfort, uncertainty, identity shift. Now the shift, you begin to see your value clearly. You make aligned decisions. You detach from validation. You work, but you are no longer defined by it. In relationship, you went through emotional exposure, breaking attachment patterns. Now the shift. You begin to love without possession, relate without control, communicate from truth. You connect, but you no longer lose yourself in it. In religion, you went through questioning, letting go, rebuilding. Now the shift. You begin to understand without pride, speak without superiority, learn with humility. You know, but you don't identify with knowing. Next line, lifted up mine eyes. This is key. The shift is not external, it is perspective. From ego to awareness, from control to understanding, from illusion to clarity. The pattern breakdown. Ego builds identity. Awareness exposes it. System collapses. You go through the process. Perspective shifts. Understanding returns. Stability is restored. This is transformation completed. You don't lose yourself. You lose what you thought was you until what is real can finally be seen without distortion. The shift. Instead of asking, will I ever feel like myself again? Ask, what if I'm becoming someone who sees more clearly than before? Because clarity is the true restoration. The journey was never about breaking you. It was about removing everything that prevented you from seeing clearly. And when clarity returns, you don't just recover, you awaken. Verse 35. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing, and he doeth according to his will. And none can stay his hand, or say unto him, what doest thou? Inhabitants of the earth represents thoughts, identities, human systems. Reputed as nothing means not ultimate, not the true authority. He doeth according to his will means truth or awareness operates freely. None can stay his hand means nothing can override truth. What doest thou means no resistance when clarity is fully seen. This is the moment where you realize what truly has authority within you and what never did. The deep insight. After everything, the fall, the process, the restoration, you now see ego was never in control. It only appeared to be. The key truth. What you thought was your power Your control, your identity was limited and temporary. But now you recognize awareness or truth is the real governing force. Example in career, before, you believed I control my success. My effort alone defines everything. Now you see, you can act, but not control everything. You can contribute, but not force outcomes. You still work, but without the illusion of total control. In relationship, before, you believed, I can shape this person. I can make this relationship work my way. Now you see, you can love, but not control. You can show up, but not force change. You relate without trying to dominate the outcome. In religion, before, you believed, I understand truth. I hold the knowledge. Now you see, truth is not owned. Awareness is not controlled. Understanding flows, not possessed. You learn without attaching identity to it. The pattern breakdown. Ego builds identity. Awareness exposes it. Identity collapses. Process unfolds. Clarity returns. Illusion of control is removed. This is freedom from false authority. Control feels powerful until you see that what is real never needed control to begin with. The shift. Instead of asking, how do I control this? Ask, what happens when I act in truth without trying to control the outcome? Because true power is not control, it is alignment. The greatest freedom is not having control over everything. It is realizing you were never meant to. And in that realization, you finally stop fighting what truth is already doing. Verse 36. And at the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me. And I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Reason return means stable thinking, clarity, grounded awareness. Honor and brightness return means restored confidence, clarity of identity. Sought unto me means life begins to respond differently to you. Established means stability, grounded state. Excellent majesty added means something greater than before. This is the moment where you regain what you lost, but on a higher level. The deep insight. This is not a return to the old self. It is a transformed version of yourself. Before, your identity was built on ego. Your confidence came from what you built. Now, your clarity is grounded in awareness. Your stability comes from understanding. That's why it says, excellent majesty was added. What has changed? Before, confidence to pride, control to ego, identity to illusion. Now, confidence to clarity. presence to awareness, identity to grounded truth, same life, different foundation. Example, in career, you regain direction, stability, and confidence, but now you are not driven by validation. You don't over-identify with work. You make decisions from clarity. You succeed, but you are not defined by success. In relationship, you regain connection, emotional stability, and healthy dynamics. But now, you don't control. You don't attach identity to the relationship. You love from a grounded place. You connect without losing yourself. In religion, you regain clarity, understanding, and confidence in your perspective. But now, you don't feel superior. You remain open. You continue learning. You understand without ego. The pattern breakdown. Ego builds identity. Awareness exposes it. Identity collapses. Process unfolds. Clarity returns. Stability is restored. Growth is added. This is transformation completed and elevated. You don't come back weaker. You come back clearer, stronger, and more grounded, because what was removed was never stable to begin with. The shift. Instead of asking, will I get back what I lost? Ask, what will I become once I'm no longer living from illusion? Because what returns is not the same, it is refined. You don't lose your life. You lose what could not sustain it. And when you are restored, you don't just return, you rise with something greater than before. Verse 37. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. Praise, extol, honor means alignment, recognition of truth. King of heaven means higher awareness, true authority within. Works are truth means reality operates on truth, not illusion. Ways are judgment means truth reveals and corrects. Walk in pride means living from ego, self-exaltation. Able to abase means ego will always be brought down. This is the moment where the lesson is fully understood and integrated. The deep insight at the beginning, the king thought he was the source. He identified with what he built. He operated from pride. Now he sees clearly. Truth is the foundation. Awareness is the authority. Ego is not the ruler. The key realization: pride is not stable. No matter how strong it looks, it will eventually be exposed and brought down, not as punishment, but as correction through truth. Example, in career, before I built this This is my success. Now, you recognize your contribution, but you don't identify as the sole source. You work with confidence, but without ego. In relationship, before I made you, you are nothing without me. Now you support, you contribute, you love, but you don't control or claim ownership. In religion, before I know, I understand more. Now, you still understand, but you remain humble. You stay open. You walk in truth without identifying with it as superiority. The pattern breakdown. This is the full chapter summary. Identity is built. 3. Pattern grows strong. Awareness appears. Watcher. System is disrupted. Ego collapses. Process unfolds. Clarity returns. Illusion of control is removed. Restoration happens. Final understanding is established. This is complete inner transformation. The journey was never about losing. It was about seeing. And once you see clearly, you no longer need to pretend to be what you are not. Instead of asking, what can I build? Ask, what am I building from? Ego or awareness? Because the foundation determines the outcome. Everything built on illusion will eventually fall. But what is rooted in truth does not need to be defended because it stands on its own. This final verse completes the teaching beautifully, from pride to exposure to transformation to humility to clarity. And now you can see it clearly. What once looked like judgment, punishment, fear has revealed itself as awareness, transformation, and restoration. The fall of the king was not distraction. It was the breaking of illusion. The wilderness was not abandonment. It was the process of becoming. And the restoration was not a reward. It was the result of seeing clearly. This is why the message of Christ is not about fear. It is not about control, guilt, shame, and division. Because truth does not divide, it unites. Truth does not bind, it frees. Truth does not condemn, it reveals and transforms. And this is why the gospel of Christ transcends religion, culture, and background. Because this journey is happening within all of us, regardless of faith. So the next time you open the Bible, don't ask, what is this saying about them? Ask, what is this revealing about me? Because the moment you begin to see yourself in it, is the moment it stops being a mystery and becomes a mirror. You are not just reading the word, you are remembering it. Because what it has been revealing all along is the truth that has always been within you. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next teaching. Have a good night.